I came to understand that some moments redefine us, creating a clear before and after in our lives. They push our emotional boundaries to the edge, forcing us to grapple with the choices we've made. Sometimes, life's unexpected turns make us question who we are and what truly matters to us. What I'm about to share is a story that might echo in those times when we stand at the fragile boundary between right and wrong, between what we know is true and what pulls at our hearts. If you've ever faced a moment where your values were tested, you might recognize the weight of those feelings. Stay with me as I recount this experience, one that still calls me to reflect on how we confront our most challenging decisions. The invitation arrived in mid-June, carrying the promise of rest and a chance to reconnect with family. My husband, Julian, couldn't hide his excitement. He was thrilled to return to the home where he'd grown up, a place woven with cherished memories he often shared with me through heartfelt stories. While I shared his happiness, a quiet unease stirred within me. It was my first time spending such an extended period under the same roof as my in-laws, and the thought filled me with uncertainty. When we arrived, the house's warmth and charm immediately struck me. Every corner seemed to hold a story, which eased my nerves and made me feel more at home. But soon, I noticed something in the way my father-in-law looked at me. His gaze wasn't unkind, but its intensity unsettled me. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking it. Perhaps it was just his way of showing interest or trying to connect, but the discomfort lingered. "Are you feeling settled?" he asked with a warm smile as he helped Julian with our luggage. His tone was polite, but something in his eyes made me pause. "Yes, thank you," I replied, forcing a calm tone. I decided to focus on enjoying my time with Julian and not dwell on what might just be my imagination. This trip was an opportunity to grow closer to his family and strengthen our bond, after all. Yet, deep down, a strange feeling lingered, whispering that something was about to change. One afternoon, Julian went out to meet old friends, and his parents had left to visit distant relatives, leaving the house in a rare, peaceful silence. I seized the moment to relax, pouring myself a cup of tea and settling into the living room, where the soft rustle of wind through the windows soothed me. Suddenly, the sound of a car pulling into the driveway shattered the calm. I rose and glanced out the window, surprised to see my father-in-law. I hadn't expected him back so soon. He stepped out of the car with a hurried air, clutching a folder under his arm. When he entered, he explained he'd forgotten some important documents needed for an early meeting the next day. His unexpected presence caught me off guard, but I didn't think much of it. "I won't be in your way," he said with a smile meant to put me at ease as he headed to his study. But that smile carried a hint of something I couldn't quite place, a blend of kindness and an undercurrent I couldn't define. I returned to my tea, though the tranquility I'd felt earlier had slipped away. A subtle tension hung in the air, and I had a nagging sense that the evening would be unlike any other. To my surprise, he invited me to join him for dinner that night. I hesitated. The idea of sharing such an intimate moment alone with my father-in-law made my stomach twist, but declining felt impolite and hard to explain. After a moment, I agreed, telling myself it was just a meal. The dining room was softly lit, its calm ambience clashing with the unease stirring inside me. At first, our conversation stayed light, touching on everyday topics and family anecdotes he shared with enthusiasm. But as the meal progressed, the tone shifted unexpectedly. "Do you feel at home here?" he asked, his gaze steady and direct. The question caught me off guard, but I opted for honesty. "It's still new to me, so I'm not entirely comfortable yet," I admitted, hoping my openness would be well received. "You can make this place your own," he replied with a warmth that felt genuine. For the first time since we arrived, his sincerity softened my defenses. His gaze was steady but not intimidating, conveying a mix of curiosity and understanding. For a moment, I let my guard down, setting aside the unease I'd carried since arriving. It felt as if time paused at that table, and the world beyond it faded away. After dinner, he suggested a game of questions and challenges to keep the evening lively. His calm tone and friendly smile made it easy to agree without overthinking. At first, the questions were playful, things like, "Would you rather visit the past or the future?" Or, "What's your favorite meal?" We laughed and shared stories, but the game soon took a deeper turn. He asked about my aspirations, my fears, and then, unexpectedly, about my relationship with Julian. "Have you ever felt like Julian doesn't fully grasp what you need?" he asked, his tone serious and deliberate. I paused, sensing the weight behind his words. "Sometimes I feel he's with me but not truly present," I confessed, surprised by how easily the truth spilled out. His response was a slow nod, as if my words confirmed something he'd suspected. His comments about my worth and what I deserved caught me off guard. "You're an extraordinary woman, and I'm not sure Julian always sees that," he said with a sincerity that left me speechless. I felt a mix of flattery and confusion. His words stirred a curiosity and an emotion I wasn't ready to name. The atmosphere shifted subtly, as if an invisible wall had crumbled. The ticking of the wall clock grew louder, grounding me as a charged tension filled the room. His slight lean forward changed the dynamic, making the air heavy with anticipation. The warm glow of the dining room seemed to darken, and the silences between our words stretched longer, each gesture carefully measured. What had started as a simple game had become something far more significant. I tried to keep things light, but the shift between us was undeniable. The game's questions grew heavier, moving from casual to deeply personal. Each word seemed to draw us closer to a boundary we hadn't acknowledged. His tone and gaze made me feel both vulnerable and captivated, pulling me in conflicting directions. I wondered how we'd reached this point, how his look had become so laden with meaning. Part of me wanted to pull away from this unexpected connection, while another part felt drawn to explore it. It was as if an unseen force nudged me toward uncharted territory, where risk and intrigue intertwined. The vulnerability came from feeling emotionally exposed, while the fascination stemmed from his gaze, which seemed to see something in me I hadn't recognized myself. This duality left me torn, unsure whether to step closer or retreat. When he asked, "Have you ever felt Julian doesn't truly hear you?" his voice carried a weight that made me hesitate. I took a moment before answering, letting honesty guide me. "Sometimes I feel he's there but not fully with me," I admitted, a mix of relief and fear washing over me for saying it aloud. His subtle nod felt like he'd expected my response. There was understanding in his expression, mixed with something I couldn't quite place. In that moment, a connection formed, one neither of us had anticipated. I tried to dismiss it, to convince myself it was still just a game, but the intensity was undeniable. Something had shifted, and we both felt it. "If you'd rather not answer, you can take a challenge," he said with a smile that hinted at more. I hesitated but accepted, thinking it would be harmless. The challenge, however, brought us closer than I'd expected. He asked me to walk to the kitchen blindfolded and find a specific object. It seemed simple, but the atmosphere changed. His soft instructions guided me, his presence close behind. His low, steady voice carried an intensity that threw me off balance. Each step heightened the tension, and when I completed the challenge, relief mixed with something deeper coursed through me. "Well done," he said with a smile I couldn't fully read. But something had shifted between us, as if a boundary had been crossed, revealing emotions we weren't ready to face. I tried to regain control, to convince myself it was still a game, but the truth was clear. Nothing would be the same. Our words faded, replaced by a heavy silence that enveloped us. Our eyes met, and in that shared glance, we acknowledged the unspoken tension that had been building. In a fleeting moment of weakness, we crossed a line that should have remained untouched. The moment stretched, charged with vulnerability and unspoken desire. Every gesture felt guided by something beyond our control, but reality crashed in almost immediately. Guilt and regret flooded me, overwhelming and suffocating. I was caught between what had happened and what it meant for my future. The vulnerability we'd shared became a burden, a reminder that some lines, once crossed, can't be undone. The next morning, the weight of the night was unbearable, replaying in my mind without pause. I rose early, avoiding any chance of facing him. The house, once warm, now felt oppressive. Every corner seemed to witness my mistake. In the kitchen, he sat quietly with his coffee. His gaze lifted as I entered, but I avoided his eyes, focusing on anything else. His presence was a constant reminder of my actions, a reflection of my failure I couldn't escape. I wrestled with the urge to confess and the fear of shattering my marriage. Speaking would mean facing Julian's judgment, but silence was a wound festering within me. He tried to approach with gentle words and casual gestures, but each attempt only deepened my distress. I craved distance, space to process without drowning in guilt. But his presence lingered, a shadow reminding me of our mistake. We silently agreed to keep our secret, but silence couldn't quell the storm raging inside me. Every moment with Julian became a minefield. His smiles, his trusting gestures, like handing me coffee or brushing my cheek, pierced my heart. I admired his warmth while aching with the pain of my betrayal. His laughter, so genuine, forced me to look away, unable to bear the guilt. His casual touches and hopeful talk of our future intensified my shame. They were so full of love, clashing brutally with the secret I carried. At night, lying beside him, the guilt was crushing. My body tensed, the air heavy, making it hard to breathe. My mind replayed the events endlessly, a film I couldn't escape. Every sound of his steady breathing, every brush of his arm, filled me with quiet anguish. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, searching for justifications that crumbled under scrutiny. Every glance shared with my father-in-law was torture. His eyes held a mix of complicity and guilt, amplifying my pain. Though Julian suspected nothing, I felt my guilt betrayed me in every word and gesture. I wondered how I could live with what I'd done. The thought of confessing flickered, promising relief, but fear of losing him, of destroying our life, held me back. The thought of him discovering the truth on his own paralyzed me. Time felt like an enemy, threatening to unravel everything. Finally, I faced the decision I'd avoided. I wondered what might have happened if I'd acted differently, if I'd stepped back when things grew complicated. Could I rebuild the trust I'd silently broken? What would this mean for my marriage, my life? These questions haunted me, but they also spurred me to act. Silence would only worsen the damage, and the cost of inaction outweighed facing the consequences. For weeks, my guilt eroded the life we'd built. I recalled sleepless nights, replaying my choices and their fallout. I'd sought excuses, but Julian's unwavering trust shattered them. There was no easy escape. Silence would drag me deeper into a pit I couldn't climb out of. That morning, as sunlight softly lit our room, I took a deep breath and resolved to take control. I couldn't undo the past, but I could choose a new path forward. The weight of guilt was too heavy to bear. I decided to cut off all contact with my father-in-law, even casually, and focus on rebuilding my marriage. It wasn't an easy choice. It came after sleepless nights and anxious days, but it was the only way to heal. One day, I gathered my courage and spoke to Julian. I admitted something felt off between us. Without sharing details, I opened up enough for him to see my struggle. His response was a warm embrace and a promise to work through it together. His love gave me the strength to try. Guilt doesn't fade easily. It lingers, a shadow that reappears in quiet moments. But facing my mistakes and their consequences was the only way forward. In that process, I learned that even in our darkest moments, we can rebuild if we confront our hardest truths. This experience taught me a painful but vital lesson. The lines we cross, though devastating, reveal who we are and what we can overcome. What would I have done if I'd known the cost? Some lines shouldn't be crossed, but when they are, how do we live with it? These questions linger, urging me to reflect on my choices and whether we can truly move beyond the past. The path to healing is long, but I'm committed to walking it, hoping to find peace in the end.